Shabbat Shalom. So I need your help with this sermon. Have any of you ever read a choose your own adventure book? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, so you know how this works. The author would be writing the story, and then all of a sudden, at a key decision point, the reader would step in and choose the next step. The author and the reader join forces to determine how the story goes. And that's what I'd like to do with all of you with this story. I'll start the narrative, and it may even be a story you've heard before. But at 3 major decision moments, I'm going to give you 2 choices. We'll decide which option to go with by a show of hands, majority rules. You guys are included too, and you. For those of you joining virtually, I apologize. You'll have to trust the congregation here. All right, here we go. In the beginning, nothing existed but pure chaotic energy and endless void. Suddenly, a gentle whisper blew across the expanse. Let there be light, and a warm glow filled the universe. God, the source of the voice of creation, saw the light and deemed it good. Over the next several days, God created sky and water, earth and plants, sun and moon, sea and land creatures, and it was all good. Then God thought that God should make a creature created in the divine image who could be a proper steward for this newly created ecosystem. God wondered, what kind of human should I make? A man or a woman? If you think that God should make a man first, let me see your hands. Nobody raised their hands. All right, who says woman first? All right, okay. God decided that making a woman in God's own image would be the best choice. God fashioned the woman from the earth's soil, gazed into her eyes, and blew the gentle whisper of life into her nostrils. You shall be known as Eve, God said, as Eve's eyes blinked open. Whoa, said Eve. Moda'ani lefanecha, how grateful am I before you. Eve uttered the very first prayer. And God saw that what God had made was very good indeed. This place is all yours, God told Eve. You must care for the land and the animals. You will have plenty to eat and drink. All your needs will be met. There is only one condition. See this tree in the center of the garden that looks ominous and foreboding? That's the tree of knowledge of good and bad. You are not to eat of it, or you will die. Eve felt something unusual fluttering in her chest at God's utterance of death. Eve felt for the first time fear. But her fear passed like an ocean wave, receding as quickly as it had come, and Eve settled into the rhythm of caring for the Garden of Eden. After a few days, though, Eve felt a new feeling in her chest. It was an ache that grew deeper and deeper with every passing hour. It was not receding like the fear had. Eve felt lonely. God sensed Eve's loneliness, having felt this very feeling before when nothing else existed. Oh, it isn't good for a human to be alone, just like it isn't good for me to be alone, God realized. God put Eve to sleep and molded some of her humanity to create the first man. As God blew the gentle whisper of life into his nostrils, Eve woke up. The man and Eve stared at each other, and then Eve declared, I have found my equal partner. The man smiled and said, my name's Adam. Eve took Adam's hand and gave him the grand tour of the Garden of Eden, showing him all the wonderful scenery and animals and plentiful food and drink. "Wow," said Adam, "what a wonderful world." God chuckled. "Someone should tell Louis Armstrong Adam said it first." Eve took great delight in watching Adam experience the joys and wonders of the Garden of Eden. "What's that?" Adam asked, pointing at the dark and spindly tree at the center of the garden. Eve's eyes darkened. "That is the tree of knowledge of good and bad. God told me that we can't eat its fruit or we will die." Adam felt a flicker of fear pass through his chest as he nodded his head, and they moved on. For Eve and Adam, every day was a good day. There was enough good food and drink, the weather was always pleasant, and they never faced any adversity. One day, Eve felt something deep in her bones. It felt simultaneously sludgy and restless. Eve felt bored. Now, there was a serpent in this garden who had been watching the humans for some time. This serpent was cunning and sought to challenge the humans. When the serpent noticed Eve's boredom, he realized this was his perfect opportunity. The serpent slinked on over to Eve. "Would you like to go for a walk with me?" the serpent asked Eve. Now, Eve knew that the serpent had a reputation for mischief, and she didn't want to get into any kind of trouble. But a walk with the serpent sounded exciting, and she was tempted. "Should I go with the serpent, or should I walk away?" thought Eve. Who says that Eve should go with the serpent? Show of hands. Quite a few people. And who thinks Eve should walk away? All right, we're walking away. "I'd better not," Eve said to the serpent, and she walked away. "Rats," thought the serpent. "Good thing there are two of them." So the serpent approached Adam, who was feeling a bout of boredom himself, so intense that he was considering starting a podcast. "Hey, Adam," said the serpent, "want to go for a walk with me?" Adam was intrigued by the serpent's offer, and he agreed. Adam and the serpent walked for a while until they came to the center of the garden by the dark and twisty tree of the knowledge of good and bad. Adam, realizing where they were, felt a rush of adrenaline through his blood. Adam thought, "that's kind of a fun feeling." But he quickly snapped out of it. "We should turn around," Adam said to the serpent. "God said that the fruit of this tree of knowledge will make us die." The serpent chuckled. "Is that so?" He slithered himself around the trunk of the dark tree and asked, "Do I look dead to you?" "No, you definitely don't look dead," Adam said. Adam thought of the adrenaline rush he felt thinking about eating this forbidden fruit and the boredom that awaited him back home. "Just take a small bite," said the serpent. "It's more delicious than anything you've ever tasted." "Should I risk a bite, or should I just go home?" thought Adam. All right, raise your hand if you think Adam should eat the fruit. And who says Adam should just go home? All right, we're going home. Wow, you guys are good. "I can't betray God. I'm sorry," Adam said definitively. "Double rats," cried the serpent as Adam walked home. Now days passed, and Adam and Eve's boredom only grew. They became lethargic, eyes glazed over, as they waited for each sunrise and sunset to come, devoid of purpose and meaning. God saw how infinite paradise was harming the humans. "I know what I have to do," God said with sadness. God pulled 2 pieces of fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and bad and swapped them into Adam and Eve's breakfast fruit salad. When Adam and Eve took a bite of their breakfast, they both looked up in awe. All of a sudden, adrenaline surged through their veins as the deep, delicious flavor overtook their taste buds. The fruit was so good that they were transported to another reality. They were tasting color, sounds, music. They closed their eyes and they could see the blueprints of the universe as they skated over and around as if they were on some kind of roller coaster, kind of like Rainbow Road for those of you who've ever played Mario Kart. But when Adam and Eve opened their eyes, they felt something burn up from their legs and all the way to their cheeks. Adam and Eve felt shame. God sensed the human shame, a feeling God had experienced too, watching atrocities overtake humanity and being unable to intervene. God knew this day had to come, but God still felt a heavy sadness as God approached Adam and Eve. "I see you have eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and bad," God said to them. "We didn't on purpose. Someone must have switched out the fruit in our breakfast," Eve protested. "Yes, it's not fair," God conceded, "but nonetheless, you have eaten it." Adam and Eve began trembling, tears reaching the edges of their eyes. "Are you here to kill us?" Adam asked, his voice wavering. "Eventually, yes," God said. "You and all other humans will one day have to die, but you will experience many things in your lifetime. You will experience hardship, heartbreak, and pain, and you will also experience deep joy, love, and connection. You will no longer be in this perfect garden of paradise. You will have to build one for yourselves. I cannot protect you out there, so you will have to protect one another." With that, God clothed Adam and Eve in warm wools and sent them out into a new world. The end. Now, this may have been a bit of a goofy exercise, but the process of storytelling reflects how we live our lives. Ultimately, the story of our lives is made up of a series of choices that we make. In many cases, there is no definitive right answer. We make the choices that we make, and then we move forward with the chain reaction that follows until it becomes time to make another decision. And sometimes the ending isn't even in our control anyway. But through the process of making autonomous choices, we build versions of ourselves and how we show up in the world. So as we begin again the story that is in the Torah, though it may be a little different than the one we told tonight, may we have the strength to make decisions in our lives guided by wisdom and compassion. May we find confidence and support as we live through the consequences, both positive and negative, of our choices. And may we, together as a community, compose a story rich with meaning and fulfillment. Amen.